it has been a while since I've made a video, but I'm back because I just watched A Quiet Place Part 2 in theaters on Memorial Day and I just can't get my mind off the film. So I'm gonna use this video as an outlet to share some of my thoughts and to advocate for watching this movie in a theater near you. And so you know, there will be no spoilers in this video. I'll start off with the elephant in the room because A Quiet Place Part 2 was originally slated for March 20th of 2020, and obviously it was held out from us for 14 months and some days. This was a brilliant choice in my opinion on the part of Krasinski and Paramount Studios, because if this film was released a year ago or even in September as per the first rescheduling, it would have fallen into the same traps that Tenet did. Rather, it didn't, which is seen by the absolutely wonderful box office records it is setting left and right. Another reason why I think this is a brilliant choice is because A Quiet Place 2 is a movie that must be seen in theaters. Now, this isn't my first time back in theaters. I've seen Godzilla vs. Kong, Nobody, and Wrath of Man on the big screen since COVID regulations have been eased, and while all three of these movies are pretty good, Nobody being a standout among the three, none of those movies really made me feel that theaters were back, which is funny because one of those was advertised with those exact words. Overall, on an atmospheric level of being with a larger than 5-person audience and a film quality and tension inducing level, this is the first movie to truly immerse me and to make me want to come back and watch it again in the theater. On top of all of that, the main reason why I think that this is the movie that has brought theaters back near full throttle, the film that has reinvigorated me to the point that I want to see all of these summer blockbusters in theaters now, and the reason why I believe you must see this movie in theaters is the sound design, which just isn't the same anywhere but the big screen. Clearly, the sound of A Quiet Place is a very important part of the movie, and since the sound of the movie is designed with the intent of being watched in a booming Dolby theater, it works best there. Staying away from spoilers, I will say that a lot of the monster attacks would not work the same if not seen in a theater, and being more specific, there are scenes where the monsters are really just lurking, and the way that the tension is created is by where in the theater the noises are coming from. An ingenious decision that I was in the moment and am still blown away with. And while I'm on the topic of autorial and filmmaking decisions, I'm going to transition over to John Krasinski's directing in this film, which is just impeccable. As with most people, I wasn't expecting for the first film to be as good as it is, and in spite of the hiring... Hold up, is hiring a word? What? How is that? I don't know how that's not a word. Lowering is a word, but hiring is... Oh, okay. Never mind. But in spite of the fact that A Quiet Place proved Krasinski's abilities as a director, my expectations were still exceeded here because I think he did a better job. Specifically, I want to point to the opening scene because it is already in most of the trailers, but here Krasinski is able to establish so much for the story coming forth, including characters and narrative devices, on top of making smart callbacks to the previous movie that'll go on to be called back in this movie, and hooking us back into the lives and well-being of these characters through a flashback to life before the catastrophe. Not to mention that the opening scene is just a hooking precursor to the remainder of the story, and above all, a kinetic and engaging action scene, and I'm just astounded by the fact that he is able to do this with very limited dialogue and a lot through the visuals. All of this is done in the first scene, and I can promise that his skill doesn't disappear throughout the remainder of the film, and in my opinion, the directing of the action in particular gets better and more hooking as it goes along, especially through the near motific use of silence to extend tension, a topic that I cannot get into too much without spoiling the movie, so I'll just leave it at that for now. Finally, I am going to speak on this movie as a sequel because A Quiet Place 1 is a great movie. In my opinion, an 8 out of 10 gripping and enthralling film with a lot of the same pros as this one. Therefore, this movie had a lot to live up to, and the mere fact that it did to me is a feat. Going off of Shafrila's guide to a perfect sequel, I think that A Quiet Place Part 2 meets all of them except for possibly the last, but even if there aren't any more films in the franchise, I believe that A Quiet Place Part 2 is one of the rare sequels that exceeds the first while making the first better on rewatches. Going in, I was worried because the trailers made me think that this would be handling some Godfather 2 cross-cutting levels between the time directly after the events of the first movie, in addition to being a prequel to the origins of the dilemma. Luckily, it isn't, and like the first film, the story stays simple, tight, and with just a 97-minute runtime, the movie flies by so quickly. Overall, I see that most reviewers give movies a score after reviewing them, so I'm gonna give A Quiet Place Part 2 a 8.5 out of 10. This is a must-watch movie in theaters, and it is so good that I'm probably gonna go and rewatch it tomorrow. Well, hello there. Thanks for watching this week's episode. I just said this week's even though I haven't posted a video in about a month and a half, but don't worry, I have been working. I got a pretty long video coming out this Friday, but I thought in the meantime, just watched A Quiet Place Part 2, could not get that movie off my mind, so make a bit of a shorter video reviewing it. No joke, if you haven't seen this movie yet, I would really recommend going to see it in theaters, if you're comfortable with it, but either way, great movie, check it out. Aside from that, thanks for watching. Do those things YouTubers usually tell you to do. Peace.